A single mother-to-be opened the wrong door and came face to face with the most feared CEO in the city. A forbidden love that would change their lives forever. A story of overcoming, redemption, and love. Get ready, because this story will touch your heart. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment where you are watching from. The white envelope trembled in her hands like a leaf in the wind, and Sarah Johnson felt the world spin as she read the test results for the third time. Pregnant, at 42 years old, alone, with a cleaning salary that barely covered the rent of her small apartment in East Los Angeles. Tears blurred her vision as she walked through the mirrored corridors of the Faria Lima Business Tower, the most modern building in Sao Paulo, where she had just exited an interview for an extra night cleaning job. "Oh God, how am I going to raise a baby alone?" she murmured to herself, her choked voice softly echoing through the empty halls. The echo of her steps in worn rubber shoes contrasted with the luxurious silence of the corporate environment. Lost in her thoughts and tears, Sarah confused the corridors of the mirrored maze. What should have been the way to the restroom turned into a sequence of identical doors and infinite reflections. Her image multiplied on the polished surfaces. An average-height woman, dark brown hair pulled back in a simple bun, wearing the navy blue uniform of St. Camillus Hospital, where she had worked for 5 years. Fine lines around her brown eyes betrayed sleepless nights and constant worries, but they could not hide the determination she inherited from her maternal grandmother. Desperate to find a private place to process the news, she pushed open a door that seemed to lead to the restrooms. Instead, she found herself in front of an opulent office that looked more like a piece of modern art. The space exuded power and elegance, glass walls with a panoramic view of the city, a solid mahogany desk surrounded by Italian leather armchairs, and shelves filled with books on business management and technological innovation. Behind the imposing desk, a man slowly lifted his eyes from the documents spread before him. David Anderson was 45 years old and had a presence that dominated any room. Tall, about 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders perfectly filling. His charcoal grey Italian suit, he had slightly greying black hair at the temples and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see through people. An almost imperceptible scar cut across his left eyebrow, a reminder of a childhood accident that few knew about. The silence between them was deafening. Sarah felt the blood rush to her face as she realized where she was. Everyone at the hospital knew who David Anderson was, the CEO of HealthTech Innovations, the company that provided the most advanced equipment to hospitals across the country. His reputation for coldness and efficiency was legendary. He had fired 300 employees in a single morning to optimize resources, never smiled in meetings, and his decisions were always calculated to the penny. "I'm sorry, sir," Sarah stammered, clutching the envelope to her chest. "I got lost. I was looking for the restroom and—" David observed the woman before him with curiosity. There was something in her posture that intrigued him. Despite her evident nervousness, she held her head high, her shoulders firm. Her eyes, though red from tears, sparkled with an inner strength he rarely saw in corporate corridors. "No problem," he replied, his deep and controlled voice echoing in the space, scented with the intense aroma of artisanal coffee that he always kept in a special machine. "The restrooms are down the opposite corridor." Sarah nodded quickly, but her legs seemed to have forgotten how to function. The shock of the pregnancy, combined with the embarrassing situation, created a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to overflow. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself with the subtle scent of chamomile she always carried, a legacy from her grandmother who said it was the secret to maintaining serenity in tough times. "Ma'am," David stood, up, noticing she looked like she might faint. For a moment, his professional mask of coldness flickered. "Are you all right?" The question, asked with unexpected kindness, was the last straw. Sarah felt the tears spill over again, and for the first time in years, she allowed her vulnerability to show in front of a stranger. I just found out I'm pregnant." The words came out before she could hold them back. "I don't know how I'm going to do this alone. I work as a cleaner at the hospital. I earn minimum wage. I live in East Los Angeles." Her voice faltered, and she brought her hand to her face, embarrassed by her own weakness. David stood still for a moment. He was used to meetings where billions were discussed with coldness, where emotions were signs of weakness. But something in the raw honesty of that woman touched a part of him he had buried long ago, since he lost Marina, his wife, during complications in childbirth that could have been avoided with better medical equipment. "Please, have a seat," he said, gesturing to one of the armchairs in front of his desk. The command sounded gentler than commanding. Sarah hesitated. "Sir, I shouldn't be here. I'm just a cleaning staff member, and you are—" "I'm someone who understands loss," David interrupted, surprised by his own sincerity. He poured her a glass of water from a crystal pitcher. "My company develops equipment for hospitals. I know well the challenges of the healthcare system." She accepted the glass with trembling hands, noticing how his fingers were careful yet firm, like someone used to working with precision. "Why are you being kind to me? Everyone says you are—" She stopped before finishing the sentence, realizing the rudeness. "That I'm a cold and calculating man." David gave a bitter smile. "That may be true, but I haven't always been this way." He sat back down, studying her with renewed attention. "What's your name?" "Sarah Johnson. I've worked at St. Camilla's for 5 years, always on the night shift." She took a sip of water. Sarah took a sip of water, feeling slightly calmer. "I came here for an extra job interview. I need to save money for the baby." The mention of the baby made David look away toward the window, where the city lights began to flicker on in the early evening. "How old are you?" 42. "I know it's risky to have a child at this age, especially alone, but Her voice trembled again. "My grandmother always said that God doesn't give us burdens greater than we can bear. She raised 5 children alone in rural Georgia, so maybe I can too." David turned back to her, impressed by the mix of fragility and strength she displayed. "Your grandmother sounds like she was a wise woman." "She was. She passed away when I was 19, but she taught me everything about dignity and work." Sarah straightened her shoulders. "I'm sorry for venting like this. I don't know what got into me." "Maybe you needed to talk to someone," David observed. "It's not always easy to carry everything alone." Sarah studied him with renewed curiosity. For a moment, she saw beyond his intimidating reputation and expensive attire. She saw a man who also carried his own scars. "Do you have children?" she asked impulsively. The question hit David like a punch to the gut. "No, my wife. We tried, but she passed away during complications that could have been avoided." Silence fell between them again, but now it was charged with mutual understanding. Sarah felt an inexplicable connection with this powerful man who, like her, knew the pain of loneliness and loss. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "That must have been very difficult." "It was what motivated me to improve medical equipment. Every innovation we develop is an attempt to prevent other families from going through what I did." David stood up again, walking to the window. "Maybe that's why I became so focused on work. It's easier than dealing with other things." Sarah stood up as well, leaving the empty glass on the table. "Thank you for listening. To me. And for the water. I should be going now." "Wait." David turned to her. "You said you're looking for extra work. What kind of experience do you have?" "Cleaning, organizing, a bit of basic administration that I learned helping out in the hospital's office." She frowned. "Why?" My company has partnerships with several hospitals. Maybe I can recommend you for a better opportunity." He returned to the table and picked up an elegant business card. "Call my assistant tomorrow. Tell her we spoke." Sarah took the card in surprise. Thank you, but I don't want charity." "It's not charity. It's recognizing potential when I see it." David returned to his work, but before she left, he added, "Sarah Johnson." She paused at the door. "Yes? Your grandmother was right, about burdens and about dignity in work." Sarah smiled for the first time since receiving the test results. "Thank you, Mr. Anderson." As she left, David stared at the closed door for a long time. There was something about that woman that awakened something dormant inside him. Perhaps it was her brutal honesty, or the way she maintained her dignity even in vulnerability. Whatever the reason, he knew that this casual encounter had changed something in both of them forever. The alarm went off at 5:15 in the morning, as always, but Sarah had already been awake for 20 minutes, feeling nauseous and dizzy. The first weeks of pregnancy brought with them an avalanche of symptoms that she tried to hide from her colleagues at the hospital. She slowly got up from the thin mattress that shared the only room of the apartment with an old dresser and a crib she had bought used when she still dreamed of expanding the family with her ex-husband. "At least, now you'll be good for something," she murmured to the crib, running her hand over her still flat belly as she prepared breakfast. 2 slices of bread with butter and a glass of warm milk. The tight budget didn't allow for luxuries, but she always made sure there was milk at home, a reminder of her grandmother, who said it was essential for pregnant women. The bus ride to St. Camillus Hospital took an hour and a half, time that Sarah used to plan how she would save every penny for the coming months. She had called David Anderson's assistant the day before, as he suggested, but had not yet received a response. She couldn't count on promises. She had to manage on her own, as she always had. Arriving at the hospital at 7 in the morning, she found Emily Carter, her only true friend at work. A nurse for 15 years, Emily was 35, with curly hair always tied back in a practical ponytail, and a personality that mixed professional firmness with maternal warmth. She was divorced, a mother to a 12-year-old boy, and understood perfectly the challenges of raising children alone. "Sarah, you look pale today," Emily observed while organizing the medications for the shift. "Did you sleep poorly again?" Sarah hesitated. She hadn't told anyone about the pregnancy yet. The fear of judgment and possible dismissal paralyzed her. "Just a little tired, nothing major." "Nonsense, you've been like this for a week." Emily pulled her into a more private corner of the hallway. "What's going on? You can trust me." Before Sarah could respond, an ambulance siren echoed from outside. Seconds later, the automatic doors opened, revealing an EMT team transporting a pregnant woman in premature labor. The young girl, appearing no older than 17, screamed in pain as the paramedics rushed toward the obstetric center. "My parents wouldn't let me come home," the girl sobbed between contractions. "They said it was a shame for the family." Sarah felt her stomach churn, but not just from morning sickness. The scene was a cruel mirror of her own fears. Even as an adult and independent, she still feared judgmental looks, whispered comments, the loneliness of going through a pregnancy without support. "Emily," she whispered to her friend, "I need to tell you something." Emily sensed the gravity in Sarah's voice. The tone was soft as she led Sarah into an empty break room. The small, simple space, with 2 worn armchairs and a scratched coffee table, offered the privacy necessary for confidences. "I'm pregnant," the words came out in one breath, as if Sarah feared she would lose her courage if she took any longer. Emily blinked several times, processing the information. "Pregnant? But you said you weren't seeing anyone." "I'm not. It was a mistake I made a few months ago. A guy I met at a colleague's birthday party. Sarah lowered her eyes, embarrassed. He disappeared when he found out. He didn't even get to know my full name. Oh, my love. Emily moved closer and held her friend's hands. How are you feeling? Physically, I mean. Nauseous, dizzy, tired. The normal symptoms, I guess. Sarah swallowed hard. Emily, I'm 42. Am I going to be able to do this? I work nights, I earn little, I live far away. How am I going to raise a child like this? The same way I raised John on my own. The same way millions of women do every day. Emily spoke with the conviction of someone who knew the struggle firsthand. It won't be easy, but you're stronger than you think. Do you think I should tell the boss? What if they fire me? They can't fire you for being pregnant, Sarah. It's the law. Emily paused. But maybe it's better to wait until the end of the first trimester to make it official. In the meantime, I'll help you take care of your health right here. The relief of finally sharing the secret made Sarah cry again. Emily hugged her, and in the silence of that small room, a friendship deepened into the territory of sisterhood. The rest of the day passed in a routine that Sarah knew by heart, cleaning the rooms, disinfecting the bathrooms, organizing the hallways. But something had changed. Emily frequently passed through the hallways, always finding excuses to check if she was okay, offering cookies or an extra glass of water. Around 3 in the afternoon, when the March sun began to warm the concrete of East Los Angeles, Sarah was cleaning the windows on the 5th floor when she noticed unusual activity in the parking lot. A sleek black car, a Mercedes-Benz she recognized from TV shows, pulled into the spot reserved for special visitors. David Anderson stepped out of the vehicle, impeccably dressed in a navy suit that contrasted with his white shirt. Even from a distance, his posture was unmistakable. Strong shoulders, purposeful strides, a presence that commanded attention. He carried a leather briefcase and walked toward the main entrance, discreetly greeting a few people who recognized him. Sarah felt her heart race. Was he there because of her? Or was it just a normal business visit? There was no reason to think a man like him would remember a casual conversation with a cleaner. 40 minutes later, while organizing the cleaning supply closet on the 3rd floor, she heard footsteps approaching. She turned and found Emily standing in the doorway, a confused expression on her face. "Sarah, something strange is happening," said the nurse, lowering her voice. "The CEO of Health Tech Innovations is here, inspecting the new equipment, but he specifically asked for the cleaning staff member who works the night shift." Sarah's face flushed. "He asked for me." "Do you know him?" Emily furrowed her brows. "Sarah, how do you know David Anderson?" Sarah quickly recounted the encounter in the business tower, omitting only the most intimate details of the conversation. Emily listened, with wide eyes. "Wait a minute," she said when Sarah finished. "You're telling me you talked to the most powerful CEO in the medical field, told him you're pregnant, and he offered help?" "It was more or less that." "Sarah, you have no idea who this man is. He practically revolutionized neonatal ICU treatment in the country. The equipment that saves premature babies here at the hospital was developed by his company." Sarah felt a strange pang in her stomach. "He mentioned something about losing his wife." "His wife died 5 years ago during complications in childbirth. They say that's what motivated him to focus on obstetric equipment." Emily paused. "Sarah, maybe you found exactly the right person at the right time." "Or maybe he just felt sorry for me," Sarah murmured, always reluctant to accept that she deserved help. "There's only one way to find out. He's still here. Do you want me to call you when he's leaving?" Sarah nodded, her nervousness increasing. 20 minutes later, Emily rushed back. "He's in the elevator, coming down. If you want to talk to him, now's your chance." Sarah ran through the hallways, arriving at the ground floor just as the elevator doors opened. David stepped out, talking to the hospital's clinical director, but his eyes immediately found hers. "Mr. Anderson," she approached, trying to steady her breathing. "I wanted to thank you for yesterday." David interrupted his conversation with the director. "Sarah Johnson, how are you feeling today?" The question, asked with genuine concern, surprised her. "Better, thank you. Your assistant still hasn't returned my call, but—" "That's because I wanted to speak with you personally." David turned to the director. "Dr. Smith, could you give us a minute?" The director stepped away, visibly curious about the connection between the CEO and the cleaning staff member. David led Sarah to a more private corner of the lobby. "I spoke with my HR team today. We have an opening for an administrative assistant in the hospital relations division. The salary is 3 times what you earn here, with full health benefits and childcare assistance." Sarah felt her legs go weak. "Sir, I don't have experience in administration. You have experience in organization, interpersonal relationships, and you know the inner workings of a hospital. You're more qualified than you think." David studied her reaction. "The position is yours if you want it. You can start on Monday." "Why are you doing this?" The question came out more directly than she intended. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. "I accept, and I promise you won't regret it." "I know I won't." David handed her a different card than before. "This is the address of the office. Arrive at 8 in the morning on Monday. Ask for Sandra. She will guide you through the procedures." As he walked away towards the parking lot, Sarah stood in the lobby, holding the card as if it were a winning lottery ticket. Emily appeared at her side. "By the look on your face, it was good news," her friend observed. "Lou, I think my life just changed completely." "For the better?" Sarah looked out the window, watching David's car disappear into the traffic of New York. "I hope so. Please, let it be." Monday arrived with a typical light autumn rain. Sarah woke up at 5 in the morning, 2 hours earlier than necessary, but anxiety kept her from sleeping. She stood in front of her makeshift wardrobe, a curtain separating her few clothes from the rest of the room, trying to decide what to wear. For her first day as an administrative assistant, her options were limited. 2 pairs of black dress pants she bought in the garment district, 3 neutral-toned blouses, and a navy blazer her sister had given her when she got the job at the medical facility. She opted for the most conservative combination, pulled her hair into a low bun, and applied subtle makeup. In the small, stained mirror of the bathroom, she saw a nervous but determined woman. "Let's go, little one," she whispered, touching her barely noticeable belly. "Today we start a new life." The headquarters of HealthTech Innovations was located in a modern building in Midtown Manhattan, quite different from the mirrored tower where she had met David. The 15-story building had a glass and steel facade, with a vertical garden stretching along the entire left side. Sarah arrived 15 minutes early, preferring to wait in the reception area rather than risk being late. The receptionist, a young blonde woman in her mid-20s, greeted her with a professional smile. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "Good morning. I'm Sarah Johnson. I'm here to speak with Sandra about an administrative assistant position." "Ah, yes. You are the new employee in the hospital relations department. One moment, please." The receptionist made a quick call. "Sandra, the new employee has arrived. Yes, you can come down." Sandra Thompson came down to personally fetch Sarah. She was a woman in her 50s, with grey hair styled in an elegant chignon, wearing a well-tailored grey suit. Her brown eyes conveyed efficiency and seriousness, but also a hint of curiosity. "Sarah, right? I'm Sandra, the Human Resources Manager." She extended her hand for a firm handshake. "Mr. Anderson spoke very highly of you." I hope to meet expectations, Sarah replied, trying to hide her nervousness. During the elevator ride to the 8th floor, Sandra briefly explained the company's structure. Our hospital relations department is responsible for the bridge between the company and clients. You will work directly with hospitals, clinics, and medical centers, coordinating technical visits, training, and equipment implementation. The department's office was an open environment with about 20 workstations divided by low partitions. Large windows offered a view of the city, and plants scattered throughout created a more welcoming atmosphere. The subtle aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted from a modern kitchenette in the corner of the room. "This will be your desk," Sandra said, leading her to a workstation near the window. "Your immediate supervisor is Patricia Williams, but she is traveling until Thursday, so I will guide you myself for the first few days." Sarah observed the desk. A modern computer, phone, planner, and some office supplies neatly arranged. It was a completely different world from the supply closet where she kept her belongings at the medical facility. "Your first task will be to organize the schedule of technical visits for next month," Sandra continued, handing her a folder with documents. "We have 15 partner hospitals that require regular follow-up. The system will help you coordinate schedules and teams." Throughout the morning, Sarah familiarized herself with the company's management system. To her surprise, she discovered a natural aptitude for organization and logistics. The practical knowledge she had gained at the medical facility, operating hours, medical routines, hospital hierarchies, proved to be extremely valuable. Around 11 o'clock, while checking data from a hospital in the East Side, she heard unusual commotion in the hallway. Voices were approaching, and she recognized one of them immediately. "The new cardiac monitors arrived last week. I want a full report on the implementation," David's deep voice said. Sarah discreetly lifted her eyes and saw him walking down the hallway, accompanied by 2 men in suits. David was wearing a white shirt without a tie, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, a more casual yet equally elegant version of the businessman she had met. His blue eyes scanned the room and briefly landed on her. He nodded with an almost imperceptible movement of his head, a discreet greeting that wouldn't attract attention from his colleagues, before continuing on his way. Sarah felt her face heat up, but returned to her work, trying to maintain her focus. "I see. You already know the boss," commented the colleague at the next desk, a brunette woman in her 30s named Jessica. "He doesn't come around here often." "No is an exaggeration," Sarah murmured. "We just crossed paths once. David Anderson is a legend here at the company. He took over the presidency 5 years ago after his wife passed away and completely transformed the corporate culture." Jessica lowered her voice. "Before him, we were just another medical technology company. Now we are leaders in innovation and responsibility. Social. What do you mean?" He implemented extended maternity leave, on-site childcare, a health plan that even covers in vitro fertilization, things that employees never dreamed of asking for. Jessica paused. "They say it was the death of his wife that changed him, that he realized how companies can impact people's lives in a real way." Sarah absorbed this information with growing interest. With every detail, her first impression of David became more complex. He was not just the cold and calculating CEO of corporate legends, but a man who channeled his personal pain into concrete improvements for others. Lunch was served in the company cafeteria, a spacious and modern environment overlooking an indoor garden. Sarah opted for a salad and a fresh juice, trying to control the nausea that still occasionally bothered her. She sat with Jessica and 2 other colleagues who welcomed her with genuine warmth. "How's your first day going?" Jessica asked. "Better than I expected. The work is interesting and you all are being very kind." "It's the company culture," David made it a point to create a collaborative environment. One of the colleagues, Julia, added, "My son had leukemia last year. The company not only kept my salary intact during treatment, but also covered a psychologist for the whole family." Sarah felt a pang of emotion. "How is he doing now?" "In complete remission, and I'm sure it wouldn't have been possible without the support I received here." During the afternoon, Sarah focused on organizing the visit schedule. She discovered she had a natural talent for coordinating complex timings and anticipating potential scheduling conflicts. When Sandra stopped by to check on her progress, she found a detailed and efficient timetable. "Excellent work, Sarah. Are you sure you've never worked in administration before?" "Never professionally, but I always helped organize the shifts at the medical facility. I think I developed some skills without realizing it." Around 5 in the evening, as she prepared to wrap up her day, her phone rang. It was Emily. "Hey, how was your first day?" "Surprising, Emily. I think I might actually fit in here." "That's great. And how's the nausea?" "Manageable. The environment is very pleasant and the colleagues are friendly." Sarah paused. "And David came by the department today." "And?" "He greeted me. Discreetly, but he did." Emily made a thoughtful sound. "Sarah, are you sure he offered you this position just for your professional competence?" "What do you mean?" "Well, you're a beautiful, intelligent, strong woman, and he's a single man who clearly took an interest in your story." "Emily, don't be ridiculous. He's the CEO of a multinational company. I'm a former cleaner who's 42 and pregnant." "Exactly. A real woman with real problems in a world where he probably only interacts with self-serving people." Sarah hung up the phone, deep in thought. Could Emily be right? Or was she just creating romantic fantasies where none existed? On her way home in the crowded rush-hour subway, she reflected on the changes that a single day had brought to her life. For the first time in months, she felt a real hope that she could provide a decent life for her child. The new salary would allow her to rent a larger apartment, buy appropriate maternity clothes, and have a complete prenatal checkup. Arriving home, she called her grandmother in her thoughts, as she always did during important moments. "Grandma, I think today was the first day of the rest of my life. I hope you're proud up there." She prepared a simple dinner, rice, beans, and a fried egg, but for the first time in weeks, she ate with appetite. The nausea seemed to have lessened, perhaps because the constant anxiety about the future had transformed into something more akin to hope. Before bed, she organized her clothes for the next day and mentally reviewed the tasks she needed to accomplish. She was determined to prove that David had not made a mistake in trusting her. Regardless of his motivations, whether purely professional or something more complex, she would earn that opportunity. "Thank you," she whispered in the dark, unsure if she was thanking life, fate, or the man who had changed her trajectory with an unexpected gesture of trust. Outside, the rain continued to fall gently, washing the streets of New York and symbolizing perhaps a new beginning for a woman who was learning to believe in herself again. 3 weeks had passed since Sarah started at HealthTech Innovations, and she already felt like an integral part of the team. Her efficiency in coordinating technical visits had even impressed Patricia Williams, her supervisor, who had returned from the trip praising the impeccable organization of the schedules. It was a Thursday in April, and the spring weather had brought milder temperatures that eased Sarah's morning sickness. She was in her 8th month of pregnancy by her calculations, although she had not yet officially announced it at work, and she was beginning to feel small changes in her body that made her simultaneously anxious and hopeful. "Sarah, I need you to coordinate the installation of the new fetal monitors at General Hospital," Patricia said, approaching her desk with a bulky folder. "It's a special project, under direct supervision from the presidency." Sarah's heart raced slightly. Any project involving David's supervision stirred a mix of nerves and anticipation that she preferred not to analyze too deeply. "When would the installation be?" she asked, already opening the schedule on her computer. "Next Monday at 9 in the morning. It's revolutionary equipment. It can detect fetal heart problems that other monitors can't identify." Patricia paused significantly. Mr. Anderson will want to personally oversee the implementation. For the rest of the day, Sarah focused on preparations. She coordinated the technical team's schedule, confirmed times with the hospital, and organized all necessary documentation. But a part of her mind remained occupied with the prospect of working directly with David for the first time since she was hired. On Friday morning, as she reviewed, Sarah Johnson was finalizing the project details when she received a phone call that would change everything. "Sarah Johnson?" The female voice on the other end sounded professional, yet kind. "Yes, that's me. This is Dr. Carla Smith from LabCorp. I have the results of your blood tests. Could you come in today to discuss?" Sarah's blood ran cold. "Is something wrong? Please tell me over the phone. I prefer to talk in person, but I can tell you it's nothing serious. In fact, it's news that could be considered surprising." Sarah managed to excuse herself. From work during lunch, claiming a routine medical appointment. The lab was 20 minutes from the office, in a modern medical building on Fifth Avenue. Throughout the taxi ride, her mind conjured catastrophic scenarios, genetic issues, unforeseen complications, bad formations. Dr. Carla was a woman in her mid-40s, with short brown hair and discreet glasses that gave her an intellectual and trustworthy air. Her office was decorated with diplomas and photos of babies, presumably patients she had followed during pregnancies. "Have a seat, Sarah. First, I want you to know that everything is fine with your health and the baby." "Thank God," Sarah sighed, feeling some of the tension leave her shoulders. "But there's something I need to tell you." The doctor smiled. "Your blood tests indicate very high hormone levels for a singleton pregnancy. I've requested an urgent ultrasound to confirm my suspicion." Sarah furrowed her brows. "Suspicion of what?" "That you're expecting twins." The world stopped. Sarah felt as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. "Twins? Are you sure? Let's confirm now." Dr. Carla led her to an adjacent room, equipped with a modern ultrasound machine. "Lie down here and lift your shirt. Don't worry, the gel is warmed." Sarah lay on the table, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the doctor could hear it. The warm gel was applied to her belly, and Dr. Carla began to move the transducer slowly. The screen filled with black and white images that to untrained eyes appeared to be just indistinct shadows, but Dr. Carla smiled widely. "Here's the first baby," she said, pointing to a small shape on the monitor. "Strong heartbeat, normal development for the gestational age." She moved the transducer slightly. "And here's the little brother or sister." Sarah saw two distinct shapes on the screen, two tiny humans developing inside her. Tears came instantly, a mix of joy, terror, and emotional overload that left her speechless. "They're really twins," she whispered, still unable to fully process the information. "Fraternal twins, from what I can see, each in their own amniotic sac, which significantly reduces the risks." Dr. Carla printed several images from the ultrasound. "You are approximately 10 weeks along. The due date will be early November." Sarah left the office in shock. She walked the streets of Fifth Avenue aimlessly, holding the ultrasound images as if they were sacred relics. Twins, two babies. How would she support two children on her own? She sat on a bench in Central Park, watching the frantic movement of the city around her. Rushed executives, students, vendors, everyone seemed certain of their destinations, while she felt lost in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Her phone rang. It was Emily. "Sarah, where are you? Patricia called the hospital asking if you were okay. She said you went for an appointment and haven't returned. Em, I need to tell you something. Where are you? At the hospital. Why? Did something happen? It's twins, Em. I'm expecting twins. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. Then Emily spoke, her voice heavy with emotion. My love, how are you feeling? Terrified. How am I going to raise 2 children on my own? I can barely imagine what it would be like with one. Take a deep breath. Where are you now? On Fifth Avenue, on a bench, trying to understand how my life got so complicated. Listen, I'm going to leave my shift early today. Let's meet at your apartment at 7. We'll talk calmly and make a plan, okay? Sarah returned to work 2 hours later, claiming the appointment had taken longer than expected. Patricia greeted her with maternal concern. Is everything okay? You look worn out. Just a bit tired. The appointment was longer than anticipated. If you need to leave early today, no problem. The project for Monday is practically organized anyway. Sarah thanked her and tried to focus on work, but her mind was elsewhere. With every document she organized, she thought of double diapers, double bottles, sleepless nights ×2. How would she manage it all? Around 5 in the afternoon, as she was finishing reviewing the documentation for Monday's installation, she heard familiar footsteps approaching. David stopped in front of her desk, looking slightly worried. Sarah, Patricia told me you weren't feeling well today. Are you feeling better? The question, asked with genuine concern, almost made her cry again. Just a bit tired, Mr. Anderson. Nothing serious. David studied her closely, noticing her paleness and signs that she had been crying. Are you sure? If you need some time to take care of yourself. No, I'm fine to work on Monday. The project is all organized. The project can wait. Your health is more important. David hesitated for a moment. Sarah, if there's anything I can do to help, anything, you can talk to me. The offer, made in a low tone so nearby colleagues wouldn't hear, touched Sarah deeply. For a moment she wanted to tell him everything, about the twins, about her fears, about how she felt lost and overwhelmed. But the work environment wasn't the right place for such a conversation. Thank you. Really, I'm fine. David didn't seem convinced, but respected her answer. I'll be at the hospital on Monday morning at 8:30 to review some details of the installation. If you want to talk about the project or anything else, I'll be available. After he walked away, Jessica, who had witnessed the conversation, approached discreetly. Wow, he was really concerned about you. I've never seen David show so much personal attention to an employee. It must be because it's an important project, Sarah murmured, still processing the caring tone she had perceived in his voice. Sarah, can I give you some advice? Whatever is bothering you, don't hesitate to accept help if it's offered. Sometimes pride can prevent us from receiving exactly what we need. Sarah left work thinking about Jessica's words. Throughout her journey home, she reflected on how her life had become an emotional roller coaster in a matter of weeks. First, the unexpected pregnancy, then the new job, and now twins. She felt like she was trying to piece together a puzzle without having the reference image. Arriving home, she found Emily waiting at the door with a grocery bag and an encouraging smile. I brought dinner, lasagna from the Italian mama who works near the medical facility. According to her, it's the best remedy for tough days. During the simple dinner in the small apartment, Sarah shared all the details of her medical appointment, showing the ultrasound images. Emily examined them with the experienced gaze of a nurse and mother. Look how beautiful, Sarah. They seem well-formed, well-positioned. Emily smiled. You're scared, but you're also happy, aren't you? Terrified and ecstatic at the same time, Sarah admitted. Is it possible to feel 2 such opposite emotions simultaneously? That's motherhood summed up in one sentence, Emily laughed. Now tell me something. How's the situation at work? You're going to need to tell them about the pregnancy soon. I know. And after what happened today, I think David suspects something. What do you mean? Sarah recounted. The conversation with David, including his offer of help and the concern he had shown. Sarah, I'm going to say something you might not want to hear, but it needs to be said. Emily held her friend's hands. That man isn't just being a kind boss. There's something more there. Emily, don't start with that again. Listen, I've been a nurse for 15 years. I've seen hundreds of couples, witnessed births, deaths, joys and tragedies. I know how to recognize when there's a real connection between two people. Emily paused. And there is a connection between you two. Even if there were, what do you want me to do? He's my boss, he's a millionaire, he's been a widower for 5 years, and I'm pregnant with twins by another man. Exactly because of that, it's real. There's nothing convenient or obvious about this situation. Sometimes love appears when we least expect it, and in ways we never imagined. Sarah fell silent, absorbing her friend's words. Could it be that the attraction she felt for David was mutual? And if it was, would it be fair to involve him in her complicated situation? Emily, even if you were right, I can't accept help from him based on feelings. I need to be able to support my children on my own. No one said anything about accepting help based on feelings, but you also don't need to close all the doors just out of pride. Emily stood up to leave. Think about this. Sometimes two people meet exactly when they both need each other. Maybe he needs you just as much as you need him. After Emily left, Sarah was alone with her thoughts and the ultrasound images spread out on the table. 2 babies. 2 lives that would depend entirely on her. The responsibility was overwhelming, but there was also something deeply exciting about the idea of becoming a mother of twins. She lightly touched her belly, imagining what it would be like when she could feel the baby's movements. You two are going to have a mom who fights for you, she whispered. It may not be easy, but we will manage. Somehow, we will manage. The following Monday, she would have to work directly with David for the first time. It would be an opportunity to better observe his feelings and her own. For now, all she could do was try to sleep and prepare for another day of changes in her increasingly complex life. Monday dawned with a typical overcast sky of autumn in New York. Sarah woke up with a mix of nervousness and anticipation that had accompanied her since she found out about the twins. She dressed in her best business attire, the navy blazer her sister had given her, and a pair of black pants that still fit, although they were starting to feel slightly tight around the waist. She arrived at the General Hospital at 8:15 in the morning, 15 minutes before the scheduled time with David. The hospital was a massive complex in downtown New York, with corridors that seemed endless and a constant flow of doctors, nurses, patients and visitors. The characteristic smell of disinfectant, mixed with coffee from the cafeterias, created an atmosphere that was familiar and comforting to her. She found the technical team from Health Tech Innovations already organizing the equipment in the maternity ward. There were 3 men specialized in medical equipment installation, led by Mark, an experienced technician in his 50s who had been with the company for nearly a decade. "Good morning, everyone," Sarah greeted, checking her clipboard with the documents. "Is everything set for the installation?" "All set," Mark replied. "The monitors arrived yesterday afternoon and have already passed the initial inspection. We just need to wait for the boss to arrive to get started." At exactly 8:30, David appeared in the corridor. He was wearing a dark grey suit, a white shirt, and a navy tie that matched his eyes. His presence immediately altered the dynamic of the environment. Even the hospital staff passing through the corridor slowed their pace, recognizing him. "Good morning, Sarah. Team," he greeted, approaching the group. "How are the preparations?" "Everything is organized, Mr. Anderson," Sarah replied, extending a folder with the documents to him. "The documentation is complete, the technical team has reviewed the equipment, and Dr. Smith, the head of maternity, is waiting for us in the obstetrics center." David picked up the folder, his fingers briefly brushing against Sarah's. "Excellent work. Shall we check out the installation site?" As they walked through the corridors of the medical facility, David walked alongside Sarah while the technical team followed them. It was the first time they were working together directly, and she was surprised by his demeanor, attentive yet professional, asking relevant questions about the procedures and demonstrating impressive technical knowledge about the equipment. "These monitors can detect fetal arrhythmias that other equipment cannot identify," David explained as they walked. "The software we developed can analyze heart patterns in real time and immediately alert us to any abnormalities." "It's revolutionary," Sarah commented. "How many lives could be saved with this technology?" "Hundreds, maybe thousands a year, just in the United States." David's voice carried a genuine passion for the work. "Every baby born healthy because of early diagnosis makes the investment worthwhile." Dr. Smith, a man in his 60s with graying hair and a warm smile, greeted them in the obstetrics center with evident enthusiasm. "David, what a pleasure to see you here in person." The two greeted each other familiarly. "We are eager to test the new monitors. The medical team is curious about the advanced features." "Dr. Smith, this is Sarah Johnson, our new hospital project coordinator," David introduced. "She organized the entire implementation schedule." "Nice to meet you, Sarah." The doctor shook her hand warmly. "David told me there's a new star on the team. It seems he wasn't exaggerating." Sarah felt her face heat up with the compliment. "Thank you, Doctor. I hope the implementation goes smoothly." Over the next 3 hours, Sarah coordinated the installation with impressive efficiency. She organized the sequence of equipment assembly, facilitated communication between the technical team and the doctors, and resolved small logistical issues that arose during the process. David watched her discreetly, clearly impressed with her natural leadership ability. Around 11:30, during a break in the installation, David called her for a private conversation in the hallway. "Sarah, can I speak with you for a moment?" They stepped away from the group, stopping near a window that offered a view of the hospital's inner garden. The sun had peeked out from behind the clouds, illuminating the plants and creating a more welcoming atmosphere. "I wanted to congratulate you on the exceptional work. Your organization and rapport with the teams are impressive." David paused. "But I also wanted to ask if you're feeling okay. Yesterday you seemed a bit down, and today I noticed you look a little pale." The concern in his voice was genuine, and Sarah found herself touched again by his attention. "I'm fine, Mr. Anderson, just a bit tired." "David," he gently corrected. "When we're alone, you can call me David." The request created a subtle intimacy that made Sarah's heart race. "David, then. Thank you for your concern." He studied her for a moment, as if he wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Mark, who approached with a technical question. "Mr. Anderson, I need your opinion on the calibration of the main monitor. There are 2 possible configurations, and I'd like to know your preference." David returned to the technical question, but Sarah noticed he continued to cast worried glances her way for the rest of the morning. The installation was successfully completed by 2 in the afternoon. The monitors were functioning perfectly, the medical team had been trained on the new features, and Dr. Smith was visibly pleased with the results. "Fantastic work, everyone," he said, shaking hands with David and Sarah. "These devices will make a real difference in the quality of our care." During the farewell with the technical team in the hospital parking lot, David approached Sarah again. "Would you like to have lunch with me?" he asked casually, but with an intensity in his gaze that made the invitation feel special. I know. A quiet restaurant nearby. We can talk about other ongoing projects. Sarah hesitated. The growing closeness with David left her feeling both hopeful and apprehensive. Yes, that would be nice. The restaurant was 2 blocks from the medical facility, a cozy place with rustic decor and a menu that blended Italian and American cuisine. David led her to a table in a more secluded corner, away from the main hustle. What do you recommend? Sarah asked, flipping through the menu. The shrimp risotto is excellent, but if you prefer something lighter, the salmon salad is also very good. David paused. Sarah, can I ask you a personal question? Her heart raced. Sure. Are you pregnant? The direct question left her breathless for a moment. All her attempts to hide the situation had been in vain. David had noticed. How did you know? Several little things. The way you unconsciously protect your belly, your morning paleness, the extra care with sudden movements. David spoke gently. And mainly, the expression you had on your face when we saw the fetal monitors working. It was as if you were imagining your own baby connected to those devices. Sarah lowered her eyes, feeling tears threaten to spill. Yes, I'm pregnant. And the father? Is not in the picture. Never has been, actually. She lifted her gaze, deciding to be completely honest. It was a mistake, David. A moment of loneliness that resulted in, well, a complicated situation. It's not a mistake if you're bringing a life into the world. David's voice was firm, yet caring. And do you plan to raise the child alone? Children, she corrected, almost whispering. They're twins. The silence that followed was deafening. David stood still for several seconds, processing the information. Sarah waited for his reaction, prepared for anything, from disappointment to immediate dismissal. Twins, he finally repeated. How are you feeling about this? Terrified, she admitted. I don't know how I'm going to support 2 children on my own. The salary has improved a lot with the job at the company, but still. Sarah, look at me. David waited for her to meet his gaze. You are one of the most competent people I've ever met. Your organizational skills, leadership, and problem-solving abilities, it's impressive. If anyone can raise 2 kids alone, it's you. But it shouldn't have to be done alone. The words slipped out before she could hold them back. David reached across the table, lightly touching her hand. Maybe it doesn't have to be alone. The simple touch sent waves of electricity up Sarah's arm. What do you mean? I mean you have people who care about your well-being, people willing to help if you let them. David, I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's... He hesitated, searching for the right words. It's someone genuinely caring for another. The waiter interrupted the moment, coming to take their order. They both chose light dishes, but Sarah could hardly think about food. The conversation had taken a turn she hadn't anticipated. Why do you care? She asked when they were alone again. David was silent for a long moment, looking out the restaurant window. When he spoke, his voice carried a vulnerability she had never seen in him before. Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten, how important it is to care for people, not just business. He looked at her again. And because there's something about you, Sarah, that touches a part of me that has been dormant for a long time. The tears she had tried to hold back finally overflowed. David, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now. Just know that you're not alone in this. He handed her a paper napkin. And whatever decision you make about work, about the pregnancy, about anything, you'll have my full support. Lunch continued in a growing atmosphere of intimacy. David shared more about his motivations for improving medical equipment, about the pain of losing his wife, and how it changed his perspective on what really mattered in life. Sarah, in turn, spoke about her fears and hopes for the future, about the legacy of strength she received from her grandmother, and how the unexpected motherhood was transforming her self-image. When they left the restaurant, it was almost 4 in the afternoon. David walked her to the taxi stand. "Sarah, I want you to know that you can count on me for anything. Medical appointments, tests, or just someone to talk to." He hesitated for a moment. "And if you want, I can recommend an excellent obstetrician, Dr. Marina Johnson, a specialist in high-risk pregnancies. She took care of my wife and is one of the best in New York." "Thank you," Sarah said, touched by the offer. "For everything. It's the least I can do for someone who brought so much light into my life in such a short time." On the way home, Sarah reflected on the turn her life had taken. In a matter of hours, she had gone from a pregnant and lonely woman to someone who had the support of an exceptional man. She couldn't quite define what was happening between her and David, but she knew it was something special and real. Arriving home, she immediately called Emily. "Lou, you won't believe what happened today." "Tell me everything," Sarah recounted. Every detail of her conversation with David, from the pregnancy discovery to the promises of support. "Marie, I told you, that man is in love with you." "I don't know if it's love, but there is something happening between us, yes." "And how do you feel about it?" Sarah lightly touched her belly, imagining the 2 babies growing inside her. Hopeful. For the first time in months, hopeful. 2 weeks had passed since the revealing lunch with David, and the dynamic between them had subtly changed. He showed a constant but respectful concern for her well-being, always asking if she needed anything, and ensuring she didn't carry heavy loads or stand too long during meetings. Sarah had scheduled an appointment with Dr. Marina Johnson, the obstetrician recommended by David, for Friday afternoon. It was a sunny May morning, and she was finalizing the coordination of a project for implementation in 3 hospitals in the southern part of the city when her phone rang. "Sarah Johnson," she answered, organizing documents on her desk. "Sarah, this is Sandra from HR. I need to speak with you urgently. Can you come to my office?" Sandra's serious tone made Sarah's stomach churn. Was it about the pregnancy? Had someone discovered and reported it? Heart racing, she headed to the 10th floor, where the HR department was located. Sandra greeted her with a grave expression, gesturing for her to take a seat in front of her desk. The room felt more formal than usual, with documents scattered around and an atmosphere of an important meeting. "Sarah, I received a call this morning that left me quite concerned." Sandra clasped her hands on the table. "Someone who identified themselves as your friend called questioning whether you truly deserve the position you hold here at the company." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "This person claimed that you got the job through questionable means and that you don't have the real qualifications for the role. They also mentioned that you are hiding important information from the company." Sarah felt her hands tremble. She couldn't imagine who would do something like that. "Sandra, I can explain." "Before any explanation, I want to make it clear that your performance here has been exemplary. All supervisors praise your work, and the results speak for themselves." Sandra paused. "But I need to ask, is there any personal information relevant that you haven't shared with us?" The moment Sarah had dreaded had arrived. She took a deep breath and decided to be completely honest. "Yes, there is. I'm pregnant. With twins. 12 weeks along." Sandra blinked several times, clearly surprised. "Pregnant? Why didn't you inform us earlier?" "Because I was afraid of being fired or treated differently. I know it's illegal to fire a pregnant woman, but—" Sarah lowered her eyes. "I've always heard stories of women who were marginalized at work after announcing their pregnancy." "Sarah, look at me." Sandra waited for her to raise her head. "This our company. There is a clear policy supporting maternity here. Extended leave, flexible hours, childcare assistance. There's no reason to hide a pregnancy here. I know that now, but when I started... Sarah sighed. I was desperate for stability and afraid of losing the opportunity. I understand your concerns, but transparency is crucial in any work relationship. Sandra took some notes. About the dubious means mentioned in the connection, how exactly did you get this position? Sarah recounted her casual meeting with David, omitting only the more personal details of the conversation. Sandra listened attentively, occasionally asking questions to clarify some points. So, Mr. Anderson recommended you after an informal conversation where you expressed interest in professional growth? Exactly. He said he recognized potential in me. Sandra smiled for the first time during the conversation. Sarah, that's not dubious. It's networking. It happens every day in the corporate world. She made a few more notes. Now, regarding the pregnancy, let's regularize your situation immediately. I'll schedule an occupational medical exam and adjust your activities as necessary. Thank you for understanding, Sarah said, feeling immense relief. One last question. Do you have any suspicion about who made that connection? Sarah thought for a moment. I might have an idea, but I'd prefer not to speculate without certainty. Upon returning to her floor, Sarah found Jessica waiting for her with a worried expression. Sarah, what's this story going around about you getting the job through an affair with the boss? What? Sarah felt the world spin. Who's saying that? Julia heard Patricia mentioning to other supervisors that there might be something suspicious about your hiring. Jessica lowered her voice. And they're also saying you've been feeling nauseous in the mornings because you're pregnant. Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she was sure Jessica could hear it. Jessica, can I trust you? Of course. We're friends. Let's talk in the break room. I need to clarify some things. In the empty break room, Sarah told Jessica everything, the pregnancy, the meeting with David, the real circumstances of her hiring. Jessica listened with expressions ranging from surprise to concern and indignation. Sarah, this is very serious. Someone is trying to deliberately harm you. Jessica paused. And about David? Do you have feelings for him? Sarah hesitated. I can't exactly define what I feel. There's a connection, yes, but my situation is so complicated. Complicated? How? I'm pregnant with twins by another man, Jessica. What future can I have with someone like David? A future built on honesty and mutual affection, Jessica replied firmly. Sarah, I've seen how he looks at you, and now I understand why he shows so much concern. This man is interested in you as a person, not just as an employee. For the rest of the afternoon, Sarah tried to focus on work, but her mind was troubled. Who was spreading rumors about her? And why would someone do that? Around 5 in the evening, as she prepared to leave, for her medical appointment, she received a message from David. Sarah, I heard there were some unpleasant comments about you today. Can we talk tomorrow? The fact that he was aware of the situation both reassured and worried her. How had he found out? And what did he think about it all? She quickly replied, Yes, we can talk. Thank you for your concern. The appointment with Dr. Marina Johnson was a turning point. The office was in a modern clinic in the Fifth Avenue area, decorated in soft tones with pictures of babies, creating a welcoming atmosphere. The doctor, a woman in her 50s with elegantly styled grey hair, greeted Sarah with the professional kindness that David had promised. Sarah, David told me about you. He said you're a special person who deserves the best possible medical care. He exaggerated, Sarah replied, slightly embarrassed. David rarely exaggerates about people. If he personally recommended you, it's because he sees something special in you. The doctor smiled warmly. Now, tell me about your pregnancy. During the detailed consultation, Dr. Marina conducted a full ultrasound, measured the growth of the babies, and assessed all aspects of the pregnancy. The twins were developing perfectly, each in their own amniotic sac, significantly reducing the risks of complications. Your babies are healthy and growing appropriately, the doctor said, showing the images on the screen. Considering your age, this has been an exceptional pregnancy. Your hormone levels are perfect, blood pressure normal, weight gain appropriate. Dr. Marina, can I ask a personal question? Sarah hesitated. Do you know David well? I accompanied Marina, his wife, throughout their pregnancy. The doctor paused for a moment. It was one of the hardest losses I've witnessed, complications that could have been avoided with better hospital protocols. Was that what motivated him to improve medical equipment? Partly, yes, but it also made him realize the importance of caring for the people we love while we still have time. The doctor studied Sarah carefully. He spoke about you with great affection, Sarah. It's rare to see him show such personal interest in someone. Our situation is complicated. The best relationships usually are. What matters is the sincerity of the feelings involved. Dr. Marina handed her the ultrasound photos. These babies are going to have an extraordinary mother, and something tells me there won't be a lack of love in their lives. Leaving the appointment, Sarah felt more confident about the pregnancy, but still worried about the situation at work. During the drive home, she called Emily. Emily, I need to vent about a very strange day. Tell me everything, love. Sarah recounted the day's events, from the conversation with Sandra to the rumors circulating in the company and the medical appointment. Sarah, this sounds like sabotage. Someone wants to deliberately harm you. Emily paused. Do you have any suspicion? Actually, I do. Remember Samantha, who works at the hospital reception? The blonde who always treated you poorly? Exactly. She saw me, talking to David the day he visited the hospital, and always. She showed jealousy when I got the job at Health Tech Innovations. That makes sense. She has access to information about you and a reason to harm you. Emily sighed. Sarah, you need to talk to David about this. If he is willing to support you, he needs to know the whole truth. That's what scares me, Lou. What if he changes his mind about me when he finds out I'm causing problems at the company? If he changes his mind because of gossip and jealousy, then he's not worth it. But something tells me he's better than that. Arriving home, Sarah prepared a simple dinner and spent the evening reflecting on the day's events. The medical appointment had reassured her about the health of the babies, but the professional situation had created new worries. How would she face David the next day, and how would they together deal with the rumors that threatened to harm both her career and his reputation? Before sleeping, she gently touched her belly and whispered to the babies, Mommy will sort this mess out. You deserve to be born into an environment of love and stability, and I will make sure you have that. The determination in her voice surprised her. She was becoming stronger, more resilient. Perhaps impending motherhood was awakening a courage she didn't know she possessed. Whatever happened in the conversation with David, she would face it with honesty and dignity. Saturday dawned with a light drizzle that left New York enveloped in a melancholic mist. Sarah woke up with a strange feeling in her stomach, not the usual morning sickness of pregnancy, but a deep anxiety related to the conversation she would have with David. He had sent a message the night before, suggesting they meet in a neutral location, away from the office for a more private discussion. They chose Central Park, a green refuge in the heart of the city where they could walk and talk without the pressure of the corporate environment. Sarah arrived at 10 in the morning as agreed, wearing a long-sleeved burgundy top that was beginning to subtly show her 14-week belly and a comfortable pair of jeans she had bought specifically for her pregnancy. David was already waiting for her near the main gate, leaning against his car. He wore casual clothes, a pair of dark jeans and a grey polo shirt that accentuated his blue eyes. Seeing him outside the corporate environment made him seem more human, more approachable, but no less impressive. "Good morning, Sarah," he greeted her, approaching with a smile that mixed affection and concern. "How are you feeling today?" "Nervous," she admitted, deciding to be honest from the start. "I imagine we have a lot to discuss. Shall we walk? The movement might help us relax." They entered the park and chose a less crowded path that wound between century-old trees and small lakes. The distant sound of city traffic contrasted with the birds singing and the soft crunch of their footsteps on the damp earth. "David, first of all, I need to apologize," Sarah began after a few minutes of silent walking. "I should have told you about the pregnancy from the start. It wasn't right to hide this information." "Sarah, look at me," he said, stopping near a wooden bench under a leafy tree. "You don't owe me an apology. I completely understand your reasons for not telling me right away." They sat on the bench, maintaining a respectful distance, but close enough for an intimate conversation. "Sandra told me about the anonymous call," David continued, "and I also heard about the rumors circulating at the company." Sarah felt her face flush. "What are they saying exactly?" "That you got the job through a personal relationship with me. That you're pregnant and hiding it from the company and—" David hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "That we're having an affair." The silence that followed was charged with tension. Sarah looked at her hands clasped in her lap, trying to process how her life had become so complicated in just a few days. "And what do you think about these rumors?" she finally asked, raising her eyes to meet his. David turned to her, his gaze intense and sincere. "I think they're based on jealousy and malice. You got the job because you demonstrated competence and determination. Your pregnancy is a personal matter that doesn't affect your professional ability. And about us having an affair," he paused significantly, "we don't yet, but not for lack of interest on my part." The confession hit Sarah like a bolt of lightning. "David, I know your situation is complicated, Sarah. I know you're pregnant with twins, building a new career, and have 1,000 worries on your mind." David leaned slightly closer on the bench. "But I also know there's something special between us, something that goes beyond the professional relationship." Sarah felt tears welling in her eyes. "Yes, there is. But I'm so scared, David. Scared of misreading your signals, scared of complicating your life with my problems, scared that you'll tire of the situation and leave me even more lost than I was before." "Look into my eyes," he said, gently touching her chin so she would meet his gaze. "I won't leave you. No matter how complicated the situation gets, I won't abandon you." "How can you be sure? You barely know me." "I know enough to see that you are the most courageous and genuine woman I've ever met." David held her hands. "I know enough to see that you bring light to every room you enter. I know enough to wake up every day thinking about you." The tears Sarah had tried to hold back began to roll down her cheeks. "David, I think about you too. More than I should, considering our situation." "Then let's stop fighting this and see where it takes us. And what about the rumors? And the people who will say you're getting involved with a pregnant employee out of pity or charity? People will always talk, Sarah. What matters is what we know to be true." David wiped her tears with his thumb. "Thumbs up. And the truth is, you don't need my pity. You are strong enough to achieve anything you want in life. Even pregnant with twins from another man? Especially pregnant with twins. Those kids are going to have an extraordinary mother, and if you allow me..." David hesitated, as if he were about to cross an irreversible line. I would like to be there to help raise them. The declaration left Sarah breathless. Are you serious? Completely serious. I can't offer certainties about the future, but I can offer honesty about my feelings. I'm falling for you, Sarah. For your strength, your dignity, your ability to love even when everything seems lost. David. Her voice came out as a whisper. You don't need to answer anything right now. You just need to know that there is someone who genuinely cares about your well-being and that of your children. They remained silent for several minutes, absorbing the weight of their mutual confessions. The park around them seemed to have stopped in time. Even the birds had quieted their singing, as if respecting the importance of that moment. And what about work? Sarah finally asked. How are we going to handle the situation at the company? With total transparency. I'll talk to Sandra and make it clear that our personal relationship does not interfere with your professional responsibilities. If necessary, you can report directly to another supervisor to avoid conflicts of interest. Would you do that? I would do anything to protect your reputation and your career. David stood up and extended his hand to her. Now, how about we grab lunch? I know a nearby restaurant that serves the best barbecue in New York. Barbecue? Sarah laughed for the first time that morning. You know I'm feeling nauseous this morning. That's exactly why. My grandmother always said that barbecue cures all ills, including pregnancy nausea. During the drive to the restaurant, a small old house transformed into a dining space in a trendy neighborhood in Brooklyn. Sarah felt lighter than she had in weeks. David's honesty had dissipated many of her insecurities, although others still remained. The restaurant had a cozy atmosphere, with rustic wooden tables, plants scattered in the corners, and the unmistakable aroma of traditional barbecue cooking slowly since dawn. David led her to a table in a more secluded corner, away from the main traffic. So tell me about your appointment with Dr. Marina, he said, after they placed their order. It was reassuring. The babies are developing perfectly with no apparent complications. Sarah discreetly touched her belly. She said that considering my age, this is an exemplary pregnancy. That doesn't surprise me. You are a strong person. She also told me about your wife. I'm so sorry for your loss, David. His face momentarily saddened. Marina was special. Very much like you, actually. Determined, caring, always concerned about others before herself. It must be hard to talk about her. It was before. But strangely with you, it's easier. It's as if she approves. David smiled sadly. I think she would be happy to know that I found someone who makes me want to be a better person. The barbecue arrived steaming, accompanied by white rice, collard greens, cornbread, and crispy pork rinds. To Sarah's surprise, the strong aroma that would normally make her nauseous seemed appetizing. Your grandmother was right, she said, taking her first bite. It's delicious. During lunch, they talked about lighter topics, childhood, family, dreams for the future. Sarah discovered that David grew up in a middle-class family, the son of an engineer and a teacher, and that his obsession with excellence stemmed from the need to honor the investment his parents made in his education. And you? What was your childhood like? He asked. Simple, but full of love. My grandmother was my biggest influence, a woman who raised 5 children alone in rural Georgia and never lost faith in life. Sarah smiled nostalgically. She always said that God writes straight with crooked lines. Maybe she was right. Maybe our meeting was one of those crooked lines. When they left the restaurant, it was almost 4 in the afternoon. David walked her to her car, which they had left in the park. Sarah, I want you to know that yesterday I spoke with the security department about the anonymous call. We're going to find out who is trying to harm you. Do you think that's necessary? I think it's necessary to protect you from any kind of harassment or sabotage. David held her hands again. And I also want you to know that regardless of what we find out, my feelings for you won't change. David, Sarah took a deep breath. I'm also falling for you. I'm scared of what that means. I'm scared of not being enough for a man like you, but I can no longer deny what I feel. You are more than enough, Sarah. You're perfect just the way you are. They leaned in slowly, and David gently touched her face before kissing her for the first time. It was a soft, respectful kiss, filled with promises and possibilities. When they pulled away, both had tears in their eyes. Let's take it slow, David whispered. Let's build this at our own pace, without pressure. Thank you for being so patient with me. I have all the time in the world for you. During the drive back home, Sarah felt transformed. For the first time in months, she could imagine a future where she wouldn't be alone, where she would have someone to share the joys and challenges of raising 2 children. It was both frightening and exciting. Arriving home, she immediately called Emily. You won't believe what happened today. From the tone of your voice, it sounds like good things. David said he's falling for me, and that he wants to help raise the babies. Sarah, I knew it. I knew there was something special between you two. He kissed me. It was the sweetest kiss I've ever received in my life. Oh, my love, I'm so happy for you. Finally, something good is happening in your life. I'm scared of dreaming and waking up at any moment. You're not dreaming, Sarah. You're living the life you deserve, a life full of love and possibilities. After hanging up the phone, Sarah lay down on the sofa and gently touched her belly with renewed affection. Did you hear that, little ones? You're going to have someone special to take care of you, someone who already loves you even before you're born. For the first time since discovering her pregnancy, Sarah allowed herself to dream of a future where everything would work out, where love would be stronger than circumstances, where 2 children would grow up surrounded by care and stability. It was an ambitious dream, but it finally seemed possible. Monday arrived with an unusual warmth for May, and Sarah felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation as she entered the office of Health Tech Innovations. The conversation with David on Saturday had changed everything between them, but the practical question of how they would handle their relationship in the workplace still remained. Around 10 in the morning, while organizing documentation for a new implementation, Sandra appeared at her desk accompanied by a man Sarah didn't recognize. Sarah, this is Dr. Fernando Castillo, our corporate attorney. He would like to ask you some questions about the anonymous call we received on Friday. Dr. Castillo was a man in his 40s, slim, with gold-rimmed glasses and a posture that radiated professionalism. His expression was neutral, but his eyes showed a sharp intelligence. Ms. Johnson, can we speak privately? They headed to a small meeting room on the same floor. Dr. Castillo opened a folder and took out some notes. I need to understand exactly what happened so we can take appropriate measures. Do you have any suspicions about who made that call? Sarah took a deep breath. I do have a suspicion. There's a receptionist at St. Camilla's Hospital named Samantha Thompson. She has always shown hostility towards me, and she was the only person who saw me talking to Mr. Anderson at the hospital. What kind of hostility? Sarcastic comments about my work, gossip about my personal life, attempts to undermine me in front of other employees. Sarah paused. When she found out I got this job, she was visibly upset. Dr. Castillo made several notes. Would you authorize a deeper investigation? This could include checking phone records and interviewing co-workers. If it's necessary to protect my reputation, yes. Very well. I will initiate the process today. The attorney put away his papers. One last question, Miss Johnson. Is there anything in your personal relationship with Mr. Anderson that we should consider in this investigation? The direct question left Sarah momentarily speechless. What do you mean? If there's a personal relationship developing between you, we need to be prepared for potential legal or corporate complications. Sarah felt her face heat up. Dr. Castillo, my professional competence is independent of any personal feelings. I have not allowed that to interfere with my work. I'm not questioning your competence, Ms. Johnson. I just want to ensure we are addressing all aspects of the situation. After the meeting, Sarah returned to work, trying to maintain normalcy, but she noticed curious glances from her colleagues. The investigation had begun, and soon the entire company would know that something was happening. Around noon, she received a message from David. Can we have lunch together? I want to update you on some developments. They met at the same restaurant as the previous week. David seemed tense, more formal than on Saturday, and Sarah realized he was dealing with pressures she was unaware of. How was the conversation with Dr. Castillo? He asked as soon as they sat down. Productive, I think. He's going to investigate my suspicion about Samantha. Sarah studied his expression. David, are you okay? You seem worried. I'm dealing with some issues on the board of directors. Nothing for you to be concerned about. Does it have to do with me? David hesitated before answering. Some board members questioned my decision to hire you, and now, with the rumors about our relationship, they want you to fire me. They want me to prove that my personal life isn't influencing business decisions. David held her hand across the table. Sarah, there may be tough moments in the coming weeks. I need you to trust me and know that I will protect you. David, if my presence is causing problems for you, no, it's not about you causing problems. It's about people resisting change, a more humane way of doing business. David spoke firmly. I won't let outdated policies destroy something so important. Important. You, Sarah. You are important to me. Your work, your presence in the company, our future together. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the waiter, but the tension remained. Sarah realized she was at the center of a corporate battle that went far beyond her personal situation. David, can I ask you something? Why is it so important for you to change the company culture? Because I've seen what happens when companies treat employees like numbers on a spreadsheet. When my wife died, I realized I had spent years focusing only on profits, forgetting that behind every business decision are real families, people with dreams and needs. And do you think they can force you back to the old model? They might try, but I have majority control of the company, and I won't go back. David paused significantly, especially now that I have even more personal reasons to fight for a more humane work environment. After lunch, they returned to work in separate cars to avoid fueling more gossip. During the afternoon, Sarah noticed strange movements in the office. People talking in small groups, furtive glances, a palpable tension in the air. Around 4 in the afternoon, Jessica approached her desk with a worried expression. Sarah, there's a very serious rumor going around. They say David might be removed from the presidency for inappropriate personal involvement with employees. Sarah's heart stopped for a moment. Who's spreading this? I don't know the source, but it's circulating among the upper departments. They're also saying you might be fired. Mariana felt the world spin around her. Jessica, this can't be happening. Mari, you need to be very careful now. There are powerful people trying to harm both of you. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety and fear. Mariana tried to focus on work, but her mind was filled with catastrophic scenarios. What if David lost the company? What if she got fired? How would she support the twins? Around 6 in the evening, when most employees had already left, David appeared at her desk. Mariana, we need to talk. My office now. The formal tone startled her, but she followed him through the hallways to the 20th floor, where the executive office was located. David's office was even more impressive than she remembered, a blend of elegance and functionality that reflected his personality. "Please, have a seat," he said, indicating an armchair in front of his desk. "David, if this is about the rumors—" "It's about much more than rumors, Mariana." He walked to the window, looking out at the darkening city below. "Today, I received an ultimatum from the board. Either I prove that our relationship isn't interfering with business decisions, or they will call an extraordinary meeting to question my leadership. Can they do that? With enough support from shareholders? Yes." David turned to her. "Mariana, I'm going to make a proposal that you might not like, but it's the only way to protect both of us in this situation." Her heart raced. "What proposal?" "I want to transfer you to our branch in Atlanta. Same position, same salary, but reporting to another supervisor. This would eliminate any apparent conflict of interest." Mariana felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. "You're sending me away? I'm protecting you, and protecting our chance to have a future together." David moved closer to her. "Mariana, if I lose control of the company, I won't be able to implement the changes I plan, and you could be fired for any excuse they come up with. But Atlanta is an hour away from New York. How are we going to maintain a long-distance relationship? We'll find a way. Weekends, video calls, anything necessary." David knelt beside her armchair. "Mariana, trust me, it's a temporary solution until the situation stabilizes." "And what if it doesn't stabilize? What if they manage to oust you anyway?" "They won't succeed, but if they did, I would still be here for you and the babies. My feelings don't depend on my position in the company." Tears formed in her eyes. "David, I'm scared. Scared that this is your elegant way of getting rid of a complicated situation." "Look into my eyes," he said, holding her hands. "I'm doing this because I love you, because I want to protect our future, not because I want to get rid of you." The declaration of love, made directly for the first time, left Mariana speechless. "You love me?" "I do, completely, and that's why I will fight against anyone or anything that tries to separate us." "I love you too," she whispered, finally allowing her feelings to overflow. "I love you, and I'm afraid of losing this before we even have a chance to build something solid." They kissed right there in the executive office as the city sparkled below like a promise of infinite possibilities. It was a kiss filled with urgency, fear, hope, and love. "I accept the transfer," Mariana said when they pulled apart. "But I want your word that we won't let distance separate us." "You have my word, and much more than that." "What more?" David walked to a secure drawer in his desk and pulled out a small blue velvet box. Mariana felt her heart stop as he returned and knelt beside her armchair again. "Mariana Johnson, I know our situation is complicated. I know there are challenges ahead, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life by your side." He opened the box, revealing a simple yet elegant commitment ring with a solitary diamond that sparkled under the office light. "Will you marry me?" The world stopped. Mariana looked at the man kneeling in front of her, at the ring that represented a future she had never imagined possible, at the vulnerable and hopeful expression in his blue eyes. "David, you don't have to answer now. You just need to know that my proposal is real, my feelings are real, and our future together is the most important thing in my life." Mariana lightly touched her belly, where two babies were growing, unaware that their lives were about to change in unimaginable ways. "Yes," she whispered, barely able to believe her own words. "Yes, I accept." The smile that lit up David's face was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made just for her, and kissed her again, this time with an intensity that sealed not only their love, but their determination to face any storm that lay ahead together. 3 weeks had passed since David's proposal, and Mariana was adjusting to her work in Atlanta. The branch of Health Tech Innovations was in a smaller but equally modern building, surrounded by well-kept gardens that resembled more of a university campus than a corporate office. Her new supervisor, Dr. Carla Smith, was a woman in her 40s, efficient and welcoming, who quickly recognized her organizational skills. It was an especially cold June morning when Mariana arrived at the office and found an unusual buzz. Employees were talking in small groups, whispering with worried expressions. Jessica, who had been transferred along with her to facilitate the transition, approached urgently. "Mari, you need to see the news. It's about health tech." They headed to the break room, where other employees were gathered around a television. The morning news reporter was speaking seriously. An investigation by the Attorney General revealed serious irregularities. At Health Tech Innovations, leaked documents suggest overpricing in public contracts and possible corruption involving municipal hospitals. CEO David Anderson has been summoned to testify later this week. Sarah felt the blood freeze in her veins. The engagement ring on her finger suddenly felt like it weighed a ton. The images on the television showed the company's headquarters in New York, surrounded by journalists, with David's name being linked to a corruption scandal. "This can't be happening," she murmured, instinctively holding her 18-week pregnant belly. Her phone rang immediately. It was David. "Sarah, did you see the news?" "I just saw it." "David, what's happening?" "It's a setup, love. Forged documents, planted evidence. Someone is trying to destroy me." His voice sounded tense but controlled. "I can't talk much on the phone right now, but I want you to know that I am innocent of all the charges." "I know you're innocent. I know your character." "Sarah, the next few weeks are going to be very difficult. The press will follow me. They'll try to find any aspect of my personal life to exploit, including our relationship." Her stomach churned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it might be better for us to keep our distance until this is resolved, to protect you and the babies." "David, no, I'm not going to abandon you now." "It's not abandonment, it's protection. If they find out about our engagement, about your pregnancy, you'll become a target for the media. I can't allow that." Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. "So, you're ending our engagement?" "I'm asking for some time, until I can clear my name and protect our family." The word family cut through her heart like a blade. "Our family. David, I am your family now, for better or for worse." "Sarah, no. Listen carefully. If you really love me, if you truly want to be the father of my children, you won't push me away now." Her voice gained a firmness that surprised even herself. "We will face this together, or it doesn't make sense to face it at all." A long silence followed on the other end of the line. When David spoke again, his voice was choked. "Are you sure? It could get much worse before." "Much. It gets better." "I'm sure, but I need you to be honest with me about everything, absolutely everything." "I'll be at 7 tonight. Let's talk face to face." For the rest of the day, Sarah could barely concentrate on work. The news about David dominated television channels and social media. Each new revelation seemed more serious than the last. Questionable million-dollar contracts, suspicious payments, links to politicians under investigation for corruption. Dr. Carla Smith, her supervisor, called her for a private conversation at the end of the afternoon. "Sarah, I imagine it's been a tough day for you." "Why?" she asked, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. Because we all know you worked directly with David Anderson at headquarters, and because there are rumors about a personal relationship between you two. Sarah sighed. There was no point in denying it anymore. There are rumors because it's true. David and I are engaged. Carla blinked several times, clearly surprised by the direct confession. Sarah, do you understand that this could complicate your situation here at the company? I understand. But I also understand that my work speaks for itself. My competence does not depend on who I am personally involved with. I don't question your competence, but if the accusations against David are true— They're not, Sarah interrupted firmly. I know David better than anyone. He is incapable of corruption. I hope you're right, for your sake and for your baby's. Carla had known about the pregnancy since the transfer, but it was the first time she mentioned the babies in the context of the current situation. The reality hit Sarah like a slap. She was not just defending her fiancé, but the future of her children. David arrived at the apartment she had rented in Atlanta promptly at 7. He looked like he had aged years in a matter of days, deep dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, wrinkled clothes that betrayed sleepless nights. But when he saw her, his eyes lit up with deep relief. "Sarah," he said, embracing her as if she were the only solid thing in a crumbling world. "Come on, let's sit. You look exhausted." The apartment was small and simple. 2 bedrooms, an open living room and kitchen, furnished with basic but comfortable pieces. David sat on the sofa and she noticed his hands trembling slightly. "Tell me everything," she said, sitting beside him and holding his hands. "Someone planted evidence in the company's system, forged contracts with backdated signatures, fabricated emails, even edited recordings of phone conversations." David spoke in a hoarse voice. "It's a sophisticated operation, Sarah. Someone with a lot of money and power wants to destroy me." "Who would do something like this?" "I have my suspicions. There's a consortium of international companies interested in buying health tech. With my reputation destroyed, the company's value would plummet, facilitating a hostile takeover. But do you have any way to prove your innocence?" "My lawyers are working on it. I've hired the best cybercrime experts in the country, but it's going to take time, Sarah, maybe months." "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, I'm suspended from the presidency by the board's decision. The company is being run by an interim manager, and my personal life is being scrutinized by scandal-hungry journalists." Sarah stood up and walked to the window, looking at the city lights that were coming on in the approaching night. Her belly was starting to show more, and she unconsciously protected it with her hands. "David, I need to ask you a question, and I want a completely honest answer. Any question. At any point in any situation, did you do anything that could be interpreted as irregular? Anything that might have given rise to these accusations?" David was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with regret. 3 years ago, when I was expanding operations into the countryside, I made some payments that could be questioned. They weren't bribes, but let's say I expedited some bureaucratic processes." Sarah's heart sank. "David." "They were small amounts, Sarah. $1,000, $2,000 to expedite licenses that would take months to process. It's a common practice in the market, although not right. And now they're using this against you. They're amplifying these minor slip-ups and fabricating evidence of large-scale corruption." David moved closer to her. "Sarah, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, taken shortcuts I shouldn't have, but I'm not the monster they're painting in the media." Sarah turned to face him. She saw a broken, vulnerable man, but still honest enough to admit his flaws. It was more than many would do in his situation. "David, we all make mistakes. What matters is how we deal with the consequences." "And how do you want me to deal with this?" By fighting, proving your innocence against the serious accusations and taking responsibility for the real mistakes. She touched his face tenderly, and doing it with your head held high, because you're not the man they're trying to destroy. Do you still want to marry me, even knowing I might lose everything? Sarah looked at the ring on her finger, then at the man she loved, vulnerable and imperfect, but real and present. David Anderson, I didn't fall in love with your money or your company. I fell in love with the man who offered me hope when I had none, the man who wants to help raise my children even though they aren't biologically his. Tears began to fall. So yes, I want to marry you, rich or poor, famous or forgotten. David kissed her as if she were his last breath of life, a desperate, grateful, passionate kiss. I love you, he whispered against her lips. I love you more than any company, any fortune, anything. I love you too, and we'll get through this together. They spent the rest of the night planning. David talked about the lawyers he had hired, the parallel investigations they were conducting, the evidence they hoped to find to prove his innocence. Sarah, in turn, insisted she would continue working normally, maintaining her dignity and proving she wasn't just the fiancée of the corruption suspect. Around midnight, as they prepared for bed, David's phone rang. It was his lead attorney. David, we have important news. We've found something that could change everything. What did you find? Evidence that the forged documents were created by a tech company hired by the Hellman Industries Consortium, the same consortium that made a purchase offer for health tech innovations last year. David looked at Sarah with a glimmer of hope in his eyes for the first time in days. Does this mean I can prove it was a setup? It means we're on the right track, but we still need more evidence to build a solid case. When David hung up, Sarah saw a renewed determination in his posture. We're going to make it, aren't we? She asked. We're going to make it, and when this is all over, I'm going to give you the most beautiful wedding New York has ever seen. David, you know you don't need to do that, right? I can marry you at the courthouse, in a church, on the beach, wherever you want. The important thing is that it's with you. I know, but you deserve something special. You three deserve something special. Sarah touched her belly, where the babies were gently moving, as if they were listening to the conversation and approving of the plans. Then let's fight for that future, for our children and for our love. It was a promise made in the darkness of a simple room, but filled with all the strength that two passionate hearts could muster. And, no matter how stormy the battle ahead might be, they would face it together. August arrived with a biting chill in New York, and Sarah was now 26 weeks pregnant. Her belly had grown considerably, and the movements of the twins had become a constant and comforting presence in her life. She had moved back to New York 2 weeks earlier, after David secured a temporary injunction, allowing him to reassume the presidency of Health Tech Innovations while the investigations continued. It was a Monday morning when Sarah arrived at the General Hospital for a routine checkup with Dr. Marina. My prenatal care had gone smoothly until then, but in recent weeks she had been feeling excessive fatigue and some dizziness that worried her. Good morning, Sarah. How are you feeling today? Dr. Marina asked, immediately noticing the paleness of her patient. A bit tired, doctor, and I've been feeling some dizziness, especially when I get up quickly. During the examination, the doctor frowned as she checked Sarah's blood pressure. Your pressure is a bit elevated. We're going to run some additional tests to make sure everything is okay. The ultrasound revealed that the babies were developing perfectly, but Dr. Marina requested additional blood and urine tests. It's just a precaution, Sarah, but I want to rule out any possibility of pregnancy complications. The word pregnancy complications echoed in Sarah's mind like an alarm. She knew from her years working in the hospital that it was a serious complication that could endanger both her and the babies. "Doctor, if it is pregnancy complications, what does that mean?" "Let's wait for the test results before we worry. But in the meantime, I want you to slow down and maintain relative rest." The doctor wrote down some recommendations. "And I'm going to ask someone to accompany you home today. You shouldn't drive alone." Sarah called David as soon as she left the office. He was in an important meeting with the lawyers, but interrupted everything upon hearing about the medical appointment. "I'm coming to get you now," he said, leaving no room for discussion. "David, you don't have to—" "Sarah, you and the babies are more important than any meeting. Just wait there. I'll be there in 20 minutes. As she waited in the hospital lobby, Sarah reflected on how her life had become a roller coaster of emotions in recent months. The scandal involving David was gradually being clarified. They had already managed to prove that much of the evidence was fabricated, but the constant stress was clearly affecting his health. David arrived sooner than promised, visibly worried. He wore a dark suit that highlighted the pallor of his face and the dark circles that revealed sleepless nights. "How are you feeling?" he asked, carefully hugging her. "Better now that you're here." During the drive home, David held her hand while driving, occasionally casting worried glances in her direction. "Sarah, I want you to know that starting today, you won't stress about anything related to the company case. My lawyers are handling everything. David, I can't just ignore what's happening. You can and you will. Our priority now is you and the babies." He stopped at a traffic light and looked at her seriously. "Sarah, I almost lost Marina due to complications that could have been avoided. I won't take the same risk with you." The comparison to Marina touched Sarah deeply. She knew that David carried immense guilt over the death of his first wife, and the idea that history could repeat itself terrified him. "Love, nothing is going to happen to me. Dr. Marina is excellent, and we're detecting any problems early. Even so, I want to hire a nurse to stay with you during the day." "David, that's an overreaction." "It's not an overreaction, it's care." He resumed driving when the light turned green. "Sarah, I love you more than anything in this world. If I lose you—" "You're not going to lose me," she said firmly, "but I need you to stop blaming yourself in advance for things we don't even know will happen." Arriving at the apartment they had rented together in a trendy neighborhood in Brooklyn, a larger and more comfortable space than Sarah's small apartment, David insisted that she lie down on the couch while he prepared lunch. "You don't need to treat me like I'm made of glass," she protested, watching him move around the kitchen with almost comical determination. "I do. It's my right as your future husband and the father of your children." The casual declaration, "the father of your children," warmed Sarah's heart. David never distinguished between being a biological or adoptive father. To him, the twins were already his children. Around 3 in the afternoon, Sarah's phone rang. It was Dr. Marina. "Sarah, I need you to come to the hospital immediately. The tests revealed some changes that we need to monitor closely." The blood froze in Sarah's veins. "Doctor, is it serious?" "It's a situation that requires care, but I don't want you to panic. Come calmly, but come now." David, who had heard half of the conversation, was already grabbing the car keys before Sarah even hung up the phone. "Let's go, now." The drive to the medical facility was tense. David was driving a bit over the speed limit, and Sarah was trying to stay calm by taking deep breaths, as she had learned in her childbirth preparation classes. Dr. Marina received them in her office with a serious but reassuring expression. "Sarah, David, please sit down. I'll be direct. The tests confirmed early-stage pregnancy complications. Your blood pressure is elevated, there's protein in your urine, and some other markers indicate that we need to take immediate action." David visibly paled. "What does that mean, Doctor?" "It means Sarah needs complete bed rest and constant medical supervision. If we don't control the situation, it could progress to a medical emergency." "And the babies?" Sarah asked, instinctively touching her belly. "The babies are fine at the moment, but if the pregnancy complications worsen, we may need to deliver them early. Ideally, we want to keep them in until at least 32 weeks, but we'll monitor day by day." The room fell silent for a moment as everyone processed the information. "Doctor," David finally said, "what are our options?" "Complete bed rest, medication to control the blood pressure, constant monitoring. Sarah, you're going to need to stop working completely. No stress, no worries." "That's impossible," protested Sarah. "I can't just stop my life." "You can and you will," David interrupted firmly. "Dr. Marina, can she be admitted for monitoring?" "For now, that's not necessary, but if the symptoms worsen, yes." In the following days, David became a dedicated caregiver. He hired a nurse specialized in high-risk pregnancies, reorganized his own schedule to work from home whenever possible, and transformed the apartment into a home care environment. Sarah, used to independence and constant activity, struggled to accept the new routine. She spent her days on the couch or in bed, reading, watching television, and feeling the babies move more actively. "David, I'm going crazy just sitting here," she complained one Thursday afternoon when he returned from work. "I know it's hard, love, but it's temporary." He sat beside her and gently touched her belly. "Look how big they are already. Every day we can keep them in here is a victory." "And what if I can't keep them in until the end? What if they're born prematurely because of me?" "Sarah, look at me." David waited for her to meet his gaze. "You're not to blame for anything. Pregnancy complications can happen to any pregnant woman under any circumstances. The important thing is that we're taking good care of you." That night, while David slept beside her, Sarah stayed awake, feeling the movements of the babies. They seemed more restless than usual, as if sensing her anxiety. "Calm down, my loves," she whispered, caressing her belly. "Mommy is here, Daddy David is here, and we're going to take very good care of you." Around 2 in the morning, she felt a sharp pain on the right side of her abdomen, followed by intense dizziness. She tried to get up to go to the bathroom, but her legs didn't respond properly. "David!" she called, touching his David, wake up!" He immediately awoke with the instinct of someone who lived in a state of alert. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm in pain and very—" David felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. "I think something's not right." He turned on the light and saw that Sarah was pale and sweating. Without wasting any time, he grabbed the phone and called Dr. Marina. "Doctor, Sarah is experiencing severe abdominal pain and dizziness. What should we do?" "Get her to the hospital immediately. I'll meet you at the emergency room." The drive to the hospital felt like the longest of David's life. Sarah clung to his arm, breathing irregularly and clearly frightened. "David, if something happens to me—" "Nothing is going to happen. But if it does, promise me you'll take care of the babies, that you'll love them as if they were your own." "Sarah, stop talking like that. You're going to be fine. The babies are going to be fine." "Promise?" David held her hand tightly as he drove. "I promise, but I won't have to keep that promise because you're going to raise those babies with me." Upon arriving at the hospital, Dr. Marina was already waiting for them with a medical team. Sarah was immediately taken for tests, while David paced back and forth in the waiting room like a caged animal. An hour later, the doctor returned with a serious expression. "David, the pregnancy complications have progressed rapidly. We need to perform the delivery now." "Now? But she's only 28 weeks. If we wait any longer, we could lose both the mother and the babies." They are small and will need the neonatal intensive care unit, but they have a good chance of survival. David felt the world spin around him. Can I see her before the surgery? Yes, but quickly. We're preparing the operating room now. Sarah was conscious but visibly scared when he entered the pre-operative room. She held his hand as if it were her only connection to reality. David, I'm scared. I'm scared too, love, but you're the strongest woman I know, and our babies have inherited that strength. He gently kissed her forehead. I'll be here when you wake up. We'll all be here. I love you, she whispered, as the nurses began to take her to the operating room. I love you too, more than anything. David waited in the waiting room during the 3 longest hours of his life. He walked, sat, prayed, even though he wasn't a very religious man, and imagined every possible scenario. When Dr. Marina finally appeared, still in surgical scrubs, her face showed fatigue but also relief. David, Sarah did well during the surgery. She's stable and will make a full recovery. And the babies? A boy and a girl. Premature but breathing on their own. They will need some weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit, but the outlook is very good. David felt his legs go weak and had to lean against the wall. Can I see them? You can see Sarah first. She's still recovering from the anesthesia but has already asked about the babies. Sarah was pale but conscious when he entered the recovery room. Her eyes searched for his immediately. The babies. They're fine, love. A boy and a girl. Small, but fighters, just like their mother. Sarah smiled for the first time in days, tears of relief rolling down her cheeks. Have you seen them? Not yet. I wanted to see you first. Go see our children, David, and tell them that Mommy and Daddy love them very much. When David saw the twins for the first time in the neonatal intensive care unit, small, fragile, but clearly determined to live, he knew his life had changed forever. It didn't matter that they weren't his biological children. In that moment, looking at those 2 tiny humans fighting for life, he became a true father. Hello, my little ones, he whispered, gently touching the incubator. Daddy is here, and Mommy is doing well too. You are the bravest babies in the world. It was the beginning of a new life for all of them, a life built on love, resilience, and the promise that together they could face any challenge the future might bring.